Hey, what's going on? Ryan here with Intersection Records, and I went to Farm Aid 40 this weekend up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They played at the football stadium where the Golden Gophers play football, and it was an all-day event. It was a long, exhausting event. I saw all the artists except for one, and I didn't take any notes, and I'm not looking at set lists, and I'm going to give you a rundown of what I saw, what I loved. I'm a huge fan. I've been to 4 Farm Aids now. I've been to 94 Farm Aid at the Superdome in New Orleans. I went in '01 in Noblesville at Deer Creek Amphitheater. I went again in 2009 at Riverport Amphitheater in St. Louis or Maryland Heights, Missouri. And now my 4th and probably my final Farm Aid here in 2025. When I got there, Eric Burton from the Black Pumas was on stage just with an electric hollow body guitar playing songs, presumably from the Black Pumas. His voice was sweet. His guitar playing was nice. I was not familiar with the material. And by the way, this stadium was absolutely packed. Even in the early beginnings, I mean, people were not in the seats. They were milling around at different stands. Buying merchandise, buying food, buying beers. It was a beautiful day in Minneapolis, about 72 degrees. Who was next? Waxahachie, I think, was next. A band that's kind of a country with elements of bluegrass. I really enjoyed that set. But what really, the first artist that kind of knocked me out was Wynonna Judd. Back in 1984, when I was about 11 years old, and maybe I had just turned 12 because I did research the date. It was December of '84. I saw the Judds and Lee Greenwood open up for Roy Orbison. So my second ever concert after seeing the Beach Boys in '82 was the Judds. So 41 years later, I'm seeing Wynonna Judd, who looked great and sounded great. At one point she said, "It's going to get awfully country in here. It's going to get a little bit country," or something like that. It's the way she said it. She kind of had these Elvis glasses on. I recognized one of the songs that she played from, that was a hit back in the 80s that her mom had done with the Judds, and it was awesome. And people were into it. Some people were singing. This was definitely an older crowd. There were some young people there. I really enjoyed that. I think that, and I'm going to forget some of these people. I should have taken notes here. Trampled by Turtles. I finally saw Trampled by Turtles. Very much, again, enjoyed that set of music that I did not know. They are from Minneapolis. And, kind of a bluegrass band again, but they had a drummer. The crowd reacted really well to their performance because they're a local group. I think from Duluth, Minnesota, if I recall. Up next was Steve Earle, who came out in between sets. By the way, sets are getting turned over fast. There's probably like 15 to 20-minute breaks in between artists. But during the break between Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats, Steve Earle did 2 acoustic songs. One of them was Guitar Town, one of his classics. And then Nathaniel Rateliff did a really high-energy set that people were up and dancing to. Nathaniel Rateliff's not my cup of tea. I've seen him a couple of times now. In fact, I've seen him a couple times this year, and I saw him about 7 or 8 years ago. I don't fully get it why people are so in love with him, but I loved seeing people get into him. Then after he was finished, Steve Earle came back out with a mandolin and played my favorite song of his, which is Copperhead Road. And it was cool to see him, who is an alumnus of this great festival for many, many years. Who is next? I'm going to miss people again. Kenny Chesney played. I don't know anything about Kenny Chesney. I know that he was huge. I remember seeing 10, 15 years ago, him playing stadiums. Like, who the hell is this Kenny Chesney guy? Well, guess what? He's a great performer. He's got a great voice. He looks great on stage. He is connecting with the audience. He's playing guitar, but sometimes not playing guitar and just doing what it takes to kill a vocal. He had 3 or 4 other electric guitar players up there, and young people were connecting with his music and dancing and into it. And it made me realize how much, how cool I thought that was. Lucas Nelson played. I reviewed Lucas Nelson's most recent album earlier this year, which I loved, and I was really excited when they added Lucas to the set, to the show. Of course, his father is one of the main guys of the festival. Lucas is great. His band's great. He's got a guy named Jake Simpson that plays violin, and he brought out the great Sierra Farrell, who I've never seen before, to sing backup. Not only that, co-lead singer on songs like a Neil Young cover of Unknown Legend, which I thought was remarkable. She even took one of the verses. Really nice. Then they did a couple of his songs. Their connection on stage and chemistry on stage was fascinating. And I think I fell in love with her that night. Okay, then we got through Chesney. I think we're now up to Billy Strings. Billy Strings came out. I wasn't sure what configuration he was going to come out, but he came out with his full-blown band. Royal Massett and Alex Hargraves and Jimmy Failing and Jared Walker on mandolin. This is straight bluegrass, no drums. This is my 3rd time seeing Billy Strings this year, and he played some of my favorite songs. He opened up with Dustin and Baggy. He played In the Mire. He played Gilda Lily. He played a cover tune or so. And again, his wonderful playing really made an impact. Incidentally, I forgot to say, Dave Matthews came out and sang The Maker with, which is a Daniel Lanois song, with Lucas Nelson during Lucas's set. So that was cool to see Dave come out, and we'll get to Dave Matthews here shortly. Next is Margot Price, who I've been listening to a little bit of Margot. I like some of her stuff on Spotify. She came out and performed a set. She brought out Jesse Wells, who actually missed his set earlier. I did hear it in the car on the way in. I drove 460 miles from Kansas City because the night before I saw Marty Stewart and his Fabulous Superlatives in Kansas City. Then I went to Clear Lake and saw Buddy Holly's site. So I have been driving for 7 hours, and I missed Madeline Edwards and Jesse Wells' set. But I did see Jesse Wells with Margot Price, and they did Maggie's Farm, Bob Dylan classic, with Jesse Wells taking a verse, and Billy Strings comes out and plays guitar on that. It was cool to see that. I wasn't crazy about Margot Price's set. I don't know, too many ballads for me. It was a point in the afternoon, late afternoon, where I was getting tired. I'd already been there for 5 hours or 4.5 hours, and I was, getting worn out a little bit. And I know I've missed somebody on this show. Chesney, Winona, it doesn't matter. Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds are next. And absolutely fantastic music. Probably the best music of the whole day. Tim Reynolds is one of my favorite guitar players. His style of lead play is just unbelievable. Dave Matthews' voice and the nuance and how he talks to a crowd, how he chooses his words, and how he's probably pretty political, but he doesn't make it obvious. He doesn't offend people by being so dramatically liberal and insulting sometimes the people that aren't quite that liberal. He's not like that. But clearly he loves this country. Clearly he loves peace and us all getting along. And he hinted at that type of stuff. They played Don't Drink the Water. God, there's songs, I can't think of what Warehouse. Is that a song by them? I recognized all the songs that he played. He played a new song called Peace on Earth, I think. That was awesome. Really liked that song. They brought out Jake Simpson on fiddle. for some of the songs that Dave Matthews Band does with fiddle. They close with Answer Marching. If you get a chance, check out Tim Reynolds and Dave Matthews from Farm Aid 2025 on the internet. It's phenomenal. Next up is John Mellencamp. His voice was gruffer than normal. He played all of his classics. Pink Houses, Jack and Diane, Blood on the Scarecrow, Rain on the Scarecrow, just awesome. What's the other song I'm missing? Small Town. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He played all his hits. And it struck me how, one, good he looked for an aging rock star. His voice was definitely more gravelly than I've seen him. I've seen him over the years like 3 or 4 times. But you know what? He has an edge to him and an authenticity to him, and he's got those songs. You know, when you got a handful of songs, and you got a bunch of other songs that are really, really good too, that he didn't play, that I would like to see some of those rumble seat songs like that. And you got the way that he carries himself, and he's got a great band. And he's on his band. It was great. But then Bob Dylan comes out. And Bob Dylan was a late add to this festival. Opened up with All Along the Watchtower. He played Highway 61. You know, Dylan was born 200 miles north up in Hibbing, Minnesota in 1941. And Dylan at 84 years old is killing it. He was in a black hoodie. You could barely see him on stage playing keyboards. His band is spooky and intense and on the screws, and it's very emotional. It's also psychedelic. I thought Bob's voice was better than when I saw him this summer. And maybe one of the best vocal performances I've heard Bob do in a long time. I think he had a lot to show. Bob doesn't like to be on TV. Bob does not like to be on video screens. In fact, you could not see him on the video screens. Bob killed it. He also played That's All. Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. He played To Ramona. It was a great little mini set. These are all 50-minute sets. Then we get Neil Young in the Chrome Hearts. And he opens up with his song Big Crime. And I'm just going to be real brief on this. I'm the biggest Neil Young. That was my 15th ever Dylan show. And last night was my 12th Neil Young show over a course of 30-something years. I first saw Dylan in 89, and I first saw Neil Young in January of 91. 12 times since. Big Crime, I don't like that song. It's, you know, he's screaming that there's a fascist in the White House. Okay, I don't know. I guess. It's just a little abrasive. I'm there to have fun. At this point, by the way, it's like 10 o'clock. And I've been there at the stadium for 8.5 hours. You know, I don't want to be preached at by Neil Young. I was taken aback about how old Neil Young seemed. I was also taken aback. He did play one of his old pianos. He played a song off of the Life album that I can't think of the name of. What's it called? Shit. He played Southern Man, which was cool to see him play that. He ended up closing with Old Man acoustically, which is nice. But his band was, you know, Crazy Horse is always a loose band. This new Chrome Loose and Garagey and whatever, this new Chrome Hearts band that features Spooner Oldham, who's 84 years old on keyboards, or 82. Muscle Shoals guy, is awesome to see him. He was in a wheelchair because he broke his pelvis recently. It was cool to see that. Micah Nelson's on a guitar. Micah Nelson was playing lap steel during Old Man, but they missed some changes. And it's one thing to be loose and garagey and funky. It's another thing to just flat out, you know, and the bass player's bouncing around like he's in Blink-182, and him and Micah are bouncing around the music. It's just inappropriate for that music. Neil's clearly looking at a teleprompter for his own songs. And when you get, you know, it's a teleprompter is a double-edged sword. It keeps you in the game longer because you can look at that. But once you start looking at that, you forget in your brain the nuance of the song and where you are, and you're actually reading. And he played Rockin' in a Free Roll, which was the second song, and he just, on the Thousand Points of Light for the Homeless Man, he just, Thousand Points of Light for the Homeless Man, kind of general, he just read them. And it was not in time with the music, and it was rough. And I'm the biggest Neil Young fan. If you could look around this room, there's so much Neil Young stuff in here. It's not even funny. Oh, my jam space is cool. I did not enjoy Neil, and I really hate to say that. But up next was the legendary Willie Nelson. And he had his sons out there, Micah. And he had Lucas out there. And he had Payne's son. I can't think of the guitar player, the son of the original guitar player. And they just put it on a special. Angels Flying Too Close to the Ground. They opened up with Whiskey River. Georgia on My Mind. They ended up bringing Billy Strings out at the end. He is such a beautiful man, beautiful artist, legend at 92. Just beyond legendary. And he's just gracious and a neat guy. And it wrapped up in a long day of music. The music went for about 12 hours. It was an exhausting event that way. It rained at points. It was long. And it was wonderful. And I know that I missed the band in my discussion here. And I don't want to talk bad about Neil Young. I love Neil Young's music. Neil Young's probably my favorite artist of all time. Everything that I've done in my own musical career is based around Neil Young. Not, I'm a weekend warrior, 10 gig a year guy. I'm not a career, but done a lot of time in music at this point. And I love Neil, but they didn't like his performance, and it made me sad that he's 80. That he's gonna be 80 next month, or on November 15th. I know his birthday, November 15th, 1945. I don't know. By the way, Daryl Hannah wheeled Spooner Olden out in a wheelchair to his spot on stage, dressed as a nurse. I thought that was kind of cool. We only talk about great music here on Intersection Records every day. I'm still working on the Yes discography ranking. I'm going to go see Kansas this weekend with my brother with Jefferson Starship and 38 Special. Peace out. See you.